Hey students, welcome to another geography lesson with Mrs. T. This week we're going to talk about urban geography, urbanization, and cities, the way that cities are planned, the urban revolutions that have occurred in the past, and also the evolution and future of cities. Yes, we're going to try to do that all within chapter 9 of the 12th edition. We won't get through all of that in this video, but this video is just a little bit of a tour of the weekly folder, because I have a section right at the opening of the weekly folder that gives you some keywords and concepts here. And this is chapter 9 in the 12th edition. If you are using anything other than the 12th edition, just look in the table of contents for the urban geography chapter. It might be 10, it might be 8. It's some chapter around that part of our textbook. So, we've talked about agricultural revolutions, we've talked about industrial revolutions and how that's changed agriculture in a great deal, but you can't really talk about either of those two things without discussing urbanization and urban places to begin with. You're going to hear and revisit a lot of the Mr. Help concepts this week. We're going to look at human environmental interaction. We're going to look at place and region, in particular functional regions, when we look at the future of cities. We're going to look at site and situation. Those things involve absolute location with the site, absolute versus relative location, of course, that comes under that part of Mr. Help. And then we're going to look at the situation of a city, which involves a great deal of other Mr. Help concepts like region and place. Is there a river? Is the soil fertile? Can you do farming within a regional area? And so please make sure that you look at this key section of your week 7 folder and look at some of the bold-faced terms that I have highlighted for you. I did that intentionally because those come from not only chapter 9, but they're concepts that we have visited before, like a cultural hearth. Think of a hearth as that place on the fireplace where, you can sit comfortably, you can feel the warmth from the glow of the fire, but you're not in it. So the cultural hearth is a concept that we looked at way back in week 1 of geography class, and we're going to think about cities and urban places. There's my dog's attacking some imaginary goblin in the yard. But anyway, we're going to look at the hearth this time as in an urban place where people from the hinterlands or people in the villages that have a different position within the urban hierarchy, they are not in a city. In other words, they come from maybe something that you would call a town or a village or a hamlet. You can think about all the other terms for a settlement of sorts that people live in throughout the millennia of human existence. So we know that with agriculture, we have talked about already, with agriculture, more people can be supported when you have a surplus being produced. So think back to the chapters where we looked at agriculture, and let me pause this for a second and try to get the dogs to quiet down. Excuse me. Okay, I'm back again. I think we're quiet for a few minutes. That never happens to y'all, does it? When you sit down to work on your classes and something from the house distracts you, like a dog or a baby or a microwave going off or something like that, right? So thank you for understanding. So what you need to do is look back in your notes at the different types of subsistence strategies that human beings have used over the millennia, and look at the way population increases with each of those. Remember from the videos that the lessons that we discussed in the sections of your book that you read, that population increases considerably when you get a predictable food supply, and with a subsistence strategy like agriculture that gives you a surplus, you have a variety of different problems. I'm pausing here because I'm looking for the right word. Do we call it a problem? Do we call it a happy problem? You have a variety of different social dynamics that come from agriculture, because you are finally able to produce enough food not only to feed your immediate local community, like as in the case with horticulture, but you are also able to produce that surplus, and that brings in profitability to the efforts, the food production efforts that you're going through. And it also brings in the concept of social stratification. So social stratification is going to be the topic of the second video that you watch after this on our urbanization topic. Social stratification is a social problem that you and I might think of today. We would call it inequality, social inequality. And so the more general term in social sciences is social stratification, because it is a hierarchy of order, which means that we have some people or classes of people in this case on the top, and some in the middle, and some on the bottom. And so we talk about urban hierarchy in this particular chapter, where we rank cities in comparison with each other, and even the cities of the future, where we're going to, I have a curated video for you that talks about megalopolises, because I have such a hard time saying that word myself that I've curated a video where you can learn about that and let the narrator of that video repeat that word over and over, because I'm not good at it. So you'll see a couple of curated videos in this unit, because you're going to look at the Mr. Sin channel video that shows you the different structure of cities and the central business district and the workers housing, and the way that cities are built or have been that are specific to cultures. You will see a certain city composition for Southeast Asia, or for Central America, or for North America, European city models, because the concept of the way we organize our space and we create the situation of our cities is different from one culture to the next, which is pretty darn fascinating, actually, when you think about it. What do we focus on as the center of the city? Well, it's different from one situation to the next, from one cultural situation to the next. But nonetheless, cities bring about social stratification in the population, and a lot of the topics that we look at in future weekly lessons that we visit in geography class is going to have to do with social stratification. It's going to have to do with social identity to a large extent. It's going to have to do with the different amount of wealth that some people have or not have. Look in the video that you're going to watch about city organization, the layout of different cities. Make note of how cities are laid out and where the money goes, so to speak. There are different sectors where low-income housing or low-income shopping might be available and marketed, whereas other areas in the town have higher-end things available to them. And so, people can kind of stay in their own little enclaves and not really use an entire city. They don't necessarily need to go into the central business district or into a lower-income area of town in order to get food, for instance. And sometimes lower income areas of town don't have enough food resources available. And so, in terms of grocery stores, and certainly when you're thinking about the urban environment, you don't think about open wheat fields or anything. But we're going to watch a video this week about urban farming and how empty lots are being used in urban areas, inner city, in a lot of cases, to grow food for the local people, which might just be a 6-8 block radius of people who benefit from the products that are grown and available at a wide variety of times of the year. So in the next video, we will talk about social stratification for a little while, and also look at some of the urban hearths that have happened over the course of history. We're going to go back to the early cities and look to see where those urban hearth centers have been throughout time, and go from there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.